Which 12-year-old child has a shape like this? I could literally see her face right now saying that and speaking the way that she did. And I don't know if she mic check testing 1 2. Okay, so this is my first time doing a story time. My nail broke. Today I'm going to be talking about something that I only started to realize affected me as like, okay, so as I was saying, yeah, I only realized that this was affecting me or did affect me when I was, already like an adult. Which I mean, it has its good and bad, but I guess it is what it is, right? We cannot change the experiences. Now, first of all, I'm going to talk about the school that I went to when I. So there's an exam in the Caribbean where we moved from primary school to secondary school, and when I did mine, I passed. That's what we call it, passing for. I passed for a school called Bonridge High. I'm not going to call the name of the school because I don't want anybody to figure out like who I'm talking about or whatever. I mean, even though I'm gonna be pretty specific, whatever, we'll figure it out. Maybe I will say it. I don't know. I don't know how the story time thing works. But I went to Bonridge High, and during the time that I was sent there, like the school was literally empty. So we had when I went there, I was the second set of Form Ones. So um yeah, I was like the second year of new beginners, and then they had students who had transferred in from other schools as well, so they would have been in Form 4 and Form 5, so there were no Form 3s. That's to tell you how empty the school was, and that's unheard of because in my country schools are existing from like the inception of time, and they're old and falling apart and whatever. So that was really weird, but it was also kind of exciting because it's a new school. It's literally brand new. I think they had some different programs than the typical schools as well, like dance and drama and performing arts and stuff like that. And it was just different. One of the bad things about going to that school was that it was really far away from my home. But I realized that I got placed there because they were trying to fill the school. So it wasn't about my marks, my performance, or even my zone. They just were like, oh, okay, we have this empty building. We need we need the children. We need children to come here and fill the school. So I was sent there, and going up to the school in the morning, I would be like one of the last students or one of the last people commuting from as far as I was coming to the school. But that has nothing to do with the story. That's just to tell you how far it was. So I had a teacher. We got something called form teachers. So this teacher is with you. She's basically like the parent of the class. She and one other teacher were like our classroom parents. And she realized that both of us had something in common. We belonged to a particular organization, and she was like, she made me her like pet project in that way. So it was always like, yeah, taking a special interest in me. And that was kind of cool. I didn't know how to feel about it. Mind you, I was not like the most outgoing as a child. I think I came into that like in secondary school, like who I really was, my personality developed. But in terms of being like an outgoing, outspoken child and involved in all of the activity and stuff, I didn't have that. So especially in Form 1, I would have been very reserved and, shy and embarrassed and trying to stay low. And all this while being five. I'm 5'9" now. Let's just give me like about 2 inches. So I was pretty tall even in primary school. And yeah, that transferred across to secondary school. A lot of the boys were shorter than me for a very long time. They eventually caught up, like around Form 4. But I mean, that is quite a difficult thing to navigate as a female. I mean, it's cool for boys to be tall, but girls, tallness is like well, at least that's how I felt, was almost like masculine, being tall. And then I was also quite developed for my age, which people always speculate and say negative things about you when you have that kind of physical formation, for want of a better description. So that was my scenario. It was weird. And everybody else was smaller, shorter, more petite, less developed, and kind of under the radar. So me already being like an eyesore, at least that's how I felt. I didn't really participate in too much, or like I wasn't extremely popular, especially at that point. Eventually my popularity grew just because I was tall, and then I started to be like more confident in myself and walk around the school. I used to like to walk around the school with my friends. We always would hook elbows together and we cruise around and it would be like, hey, tallest and whatever. It was like a cool nickname after a while. But this particular teacher, taking this interest in me, it turned negative very quickly. So while I was in Form 1, there was going to be a beauty pageant. This was the first beauty pageant that the school was going to hold, and they asked me to be a part of it. They didn't know what talents I had, if I had any, or if I really wanted to participate. They didn't tell me what really would be what would I have to do. I didn't know anything about it. I never did anything like that before, so it was so strange. But I was excited because it's like they're choosing me to be a beauty queen for whatever reason. And I remember distinctly this one day that my teacher took me, the same teacher took me to a seamstress. I don't remember the area that we went to during our lunch break or something to fit a dress. And of course, you had to disrobe. And in my country, we don't have like all the cultural norms where you have to be, or you can't undress in front of a teacher or whatever the case is. So I had to basically strip down to my undies in front of my teacher and the seamstress. And she was like, which 12-year-old child has a shape like this? I could literally see her face right now saying that and speaking the way that she did. And I don't know if she thought it was like a flattering thing to say or what, but obviously it was embarrassing. And it's almost as though it's your fault that you're shaped like that and there's something that you're doing to be shaped like that, and we're gonna get to the bottom of it. That kind of suspicious, kind of. So moving on, I did participate in the pageant. She did a facial on me one time. I remember distinctly that I had never had a facial done before. So when she finished with the facial, my face was red and swollen. I was like, Miss, it's actually maybe it would have been better if it didn't do this facial on me because I didn't know it gets better. I thought like she ruined my face. And I mean, I think that's normal for any 12-year-old who had never had something like that done or never even thought it was necessary. Like, why do I need a facial? I didn't have acne, I didn't have pimples, really. I never really had that like really bad hormonal breakouts or anything. So that was like, what is this about? And she slapped me. Mind you, my parents were actually happy to know that there was somebody who took an added interest in me at the school. They always felt as though they had a man on the inside kind of thing, and nothing like a suspicious, we're gonna get her, we're gonna find her kind of vibes. It was just like, oh, like a guardian, somebody watching over her kind of vibes, right? So when I told my mom, I actually told her in like a really joking way, like, she slapped me, but it really wasn't a hard slap, to be honest. It was just like a ungrateful kind of thing, right? Which I guess maybe it was cool. Maybe I'm over exaggerating, but whatever. The thing is, she used to give me like special assignments. So, like, if she had a class that she was in charge, well, she had a class at a point in time and then she had a meeting or something, she would be, yeah, she would then like tell me, oh, take care of this class for me, or come and look over these students, or grade these tests. I've corrected people's papers already, like in secondary school. Yeah, so I felt kind of like, okay, I'm special to her, but at the same time, you're using that specialness to kind of bully me. And I'll tell you right now, I weigh like 200 pounds and over that, honestly. And I still don't look fat because I'm tall. I know that I'm heavy. I know that I should lose weight, but I don't look fat. And when I was in secondary school, I was like maybe 100 pounds lighter, honestly. And she made me feel like crap. Now, mind you, let me describe to you what this teacher looks like. She's always dressed to the nines, always had the best phones and the best gizmos and gadgets, accessories. She had a short cropped hairstyle that she rocked. She looked really, really good. And her suits were skin tight. And I'm not joking. Skin tight. Because the boys hated her, but lusted over her. They were like, oh my God. Ah, she looks so good, but she's such a fool, like they were conflicted with their teenage feelings. That was weird. So she would make me feel really, really bad. She'd be like calling me names like Bessie the cow. Yeah. Imagine saying that as a 30-something-year-old woman looking at a child who you allegedly have this special interest in, allegedly love, allegedly. That's so crazy. So messed up. Especially considering the way that we all felt or feel as teenagers. It's so normal for teenagers to be like shaky and insecure about themselves. And you were adding to it, you were doubling down on it. Like how insane is that? Like I could never, like being an adult now, I always think like it's so important to give children grace, to give them our patience and time and just be so careful because it's our young life that you're nurturing. And I would think that teachers have that job because they love children. And it's so like unthinkable. Why would you be bullying me? So she actually was a bully to me. She would deliberately embarrass me, especially if she saw me talking to a boy in school. And obviously, these are in public areas, like public domain. And mind you, I'm still being her part time teacher's pet. And it's like, what is this relationship about? What are we doing? Are we loving each other? Are we hating each other? Do you really secretly hate me? Do you wish that you were like me when you were a teenager? What is it about? No, I mean, now I'm thinking it. Like maybe she wanted to be like me, but when I was young, I just like was like, oh my gosh, she has nothing to do. Why is she running us down? Maybe it's because she's single. She has too much time on her hands. That kind of thing. That's a common joke. Whenever you have a grumpy teacher, you tend to be like, oh, she needs a boyfriend. And that's the nice way I'm putting it across for you, because we teenagers said it much more bluntly like than that, right? And maybe that really is it, because she just seemed to be very bitter. The thing is though, like I told you, she was a hottie, so she could have literally gotten into a relationship if she chose, or she was getting a lot of male attention. There was one teacher in the school that he was very nice. He was a very polite man. He was very handsome, and I could tell that he liked her. I don't know what she was on, like whatever, to each his own. Yeah, so she literally called me names like Thunder Ties, Bessie Cow, and funny enough, for many years after, I would see her like maybe once or twice a year, and she would be like, "No, call me by my first name now," and it's like, "Okay," she'd be like, "Look at my beautiful child," and she's so aghast and gasping and in awe and whatever, and it's so weird because you have played a role in like messing up the self esteem of a young woman who looked to you for guidance, for protection, for validation. I mean, people like to villainize the word validation as though we should just validate ourselves. But a healthy self esteem is made up of two parts. It's made up of the way you feel about yourself as well as the input of others. Because if a lot of people keep telling me you do this or you do that excessively, then I need to start to take it into consideration. So other people's opinion does matter when it comes to how we feel about ourselves and how we view ourselves. It's not going to be taken in a vacuum, because that's how narcissism is developed, if you ask me. All right, so left the school. There was even a time when she was promising me to like be a part of her wedding, because eventually she did get into a relationship. This is years later, but this is after years of her meeting me randomly in the hallway, pinching me, um, buffing me, like raffing me, like just doing too much. And when I say raff, I mean like grabbing and pulling and tugging and like coming like this close up to my face and like daring me like what. And it was out of nowhere. It was like literally cold turkey, like bullying. Like why are you doing this? Still always kept a special interest in me. So I don't know if it's just like she didn't know how to be nice, or she felt like that was keeping me on my toes, or that was keeping me humble, or what. She even bullied me about reading. Like she came up to me and asked me some very like inappropriate questions about the books I was reading, because I loved reading. I would sometimes take my novels to school and whatever. Maybe the books weren't the best, but that still wasn't the forum, and it never is the forum to give advice or whatever to a child. You're talking to a child. So yeah, like I said, years after, I kept seeing her every so often. And we would talk, and she would tell me to call her by her first name, and real cool. She would see my mom, and everything would be nice. And it's only because I have not seen her since like before, a little bit before the pandemic, that it dawned on me that the things that she said to me really had a negative effect. Even now, I'm thinking about the fact that I have her on Facebook. Now, we don't say hi or anything to each other on Facebook, but whenever she sees my post, because sometimes when I post on YouTube, I would share it to Facebook just for people over there to support the video. And she's always posting hearts and like love and whatever. And I wonder if she ever watches the videos. And I wonder if she ever thinks to herself of the effect that she had on a young budding mind. And I'm hoping that she didn't do it to anyone else after me, because she was like fresh out the university, the teaching school as well, I think. But that's no excuse for the things that she did and the way that she acted. And the fact that she singled me out, and she didn't even have a clue the way I felt about myself. I mean, I was never suicidal, or I was never like using drugs or, doing like the really, really bad delinquent things. But I have struggled with my sense of self and sense of self worth, mostly surrounding body image, because being bigger than the average person opens you up to a lot of unwanted opinions, unwanted speculation, especially in my culture. The fact that I was developed early was a taboo thing that people had to talk about, and it was nasty. Like a lot of things said around my physical anatomy that I had nothing to do with were nasty. So it always had me edgy, and she added to it. She contributed to it, and I'm pretty sure that up to this point, she is absolutely oblivious. And I think that now that I've told this story, because I mentioned it to a friend, and I probably mentioned it to my husband, but now that I'm at this point, I'm like, I no longer need to have her on my social media. She is not a pillar in my life. She's nothing really in a true sense. And I don't need to feel guilty about that. And I don't need to feel like I owe her anything because I really don't. As a matter of fact, what I do owe her is like the harsh truth. But I won't give it to her because I mean it's like how many years have passed? Maybe she's a changed person. Maybe she is, nicer now. Maybe something in me triggered something in her. And that's it. But if you are a teacher, if you are a parent, if you are a child, then set harsh boundaries. Then I'll say set harsh boundaries about the way that you let people speak to you, the way that you let people speak to your children, the amount of freedom that you give somebody. Because Trini parents like to say, Miss, you could beat her, Miss, you could ring she neck, Miss, you could do that because they think Miss has the child's best interest at heart. When Miss could be the worst thing since I don't know. Like, don't just blindly, and I think a lot of parents have changed their view of teachers now. They're a lot more suspicious of, or not suspicious, but scrutinizing of the way that teachers treat children. And maybe it's because with the passage of time, people have realized that not everyone is in this job because they love children. Some people do it for the money, right? I mean, it's the sad reality, but it's absolutely true that some of these people don't like your children. They'll abuse your children and call it love. Because I'm pretty sure she did not like me at all. Maybe she was even like envious. I don't know, but maybe. And anybody that knows me from school and knows the teacher would be able to like say, yeah. And we have a saying in Trini, monkey know what tree to climb. She knew I would have never like retaliated or said anything disrespectful to her. I mean, there were times when I felt like, oh my God, this woman again. But I would never cross certain lines. So she just took advantage of that. Now that I have the position of being auntie to my biological nephews and nieces and to my nieces and nephews in love, I am so careful of how I speak to them and how I treat them because you internalize. Now, mind you, compared to the amount of people that have criticized me, the number of people that have complimented me far outweigh it. But the criticism, it hits different. The criticism you receive, the looks, the whatever, they sink down to the bone. And I don't think it's something that you do deliberately. It's just something that happens and you can't shake it. Maybe, maybe you'll need years of therapy to shake it. But as for me, I think young minds are so precious and we just have to be so careful with them. As adults, as people who have already been through it. All right, so that's the end of my story. If you guys can relate, if anyone has like a similar situation, or if you think I'm just blowing it out of proportion, let me know in the comments below. Um, if you know her, send me a wink. That'll be like our little inside joke. I don't want to call her name. I don't want to put anybody on blast. Even if it's just to my 150 subscribers. The whole point is like acknowledging damage done and then healing and moving on. So may she develop like a frontal lobe, and realize the big impact that teaching or teachers play on children in this developmental stage. Makes you realize, just that children are not innately bad. They just want to see what they can get away with. And you were once a child too, so tread light and approach people with love. Do things because you love the people involved. That's what I'll say. Thanks for listening. Bye.